Welcome, everyone. I am so happy to see you all tonight, this Thursday night, October 24th, 2024. This is the Journal of Expressive Writing feature and open mic. We're a monthly program. I am honored and delighted to host this program for the Journal of Expressive Writing. Our founder of the journal is also here tonight, Jen Minotti. She's the founder and the editor of the journal. And I really love to start the evening by having Jen unmute and say a few words of welcome to all of you herself.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to see you. I tell everybody, and this is the truth, that this is my favorite evening each month. So thank you so much for being here. Tonight, I'm so thrilled that we have this panel of 4 fabulous authors and poets, which Kelly will tell you more about, so I won't waste time. But I just want to thank you so much for being here and enjoy the evening.
Thank you so much, Jen. Jen is wonderful about posting links and information about who's been published in the journal. So please keep an eye on the chat room. We keep it open the whole evening, and it's a great place for you to mention what you appreciate about somebody's poems that they're reading, or to ask a question about their work, which you're always welcome to do. It's also a great place where you can learn more about people who might be here tonight who are reading in the open mic, and links to their work that has been published in the journal. So I want to introduce our open mic is going to happen after the featured readers tonight. And so you'll have some time to see the list that there it is right there. Chat room. Katerina Conan, thank you for helping to keep track of our open mic list. I want to introduce Katerina Conan. Katerina, you want to unmute and say anything tonight that might be helpful for you in running the open mic?
Yes, hi. What I will do is check the list of folks who've signed up against the screen names of people who are here. And so if you're signed up to read, if you're on the list and your screen name is not the same as the name under which you have signed up, then it really helps me if you change your screen name to the name under which you've signed up, so that I can check my list twice and then post a list of who's actually here. Thank you.
And if you need any help with the open mic or questions, directly message Katerina Conan or Jen Minotti as the evening goes on, and they will be able to answer your questions for you. We sign up in advance only for this particular open mic, and so we don't add readers night of, but I believe registration is open. And for our meeting in November, which Jen will let you know, and you can always register ASAP. We don't put any limit on how many times you sign up to read ever. So we're always welcome to have you back. Well, this is a really special treat for me tonight for a number of reasons. I actually happen to know each of these poets very well and really admire their work. And Eileen Cleary is the editor of the Lily Poetry Review. She's going to talk a little bit about that, but also she is the publisher of Lily Poetry Review books. I'm very fortunate to be published by Lily Poetry Review Press. And so I wonder if, Eileen, you might just say a couple of words, because we're going to focus our discussion after the reading tonight a little bit on submitting to literary journals and submitting to presses, since we have editors from 3 different journals here tonight and editors from 2 different presses. So we will move on to that. But if you wouldn't mind just saying a couple of words, Eileen, about Lily. And you need to unmute, sorry.
Sure. Lily Poetry Review Books was founded and started about 5.5 years ago. And we started with a journal, and my co-editor and my trusty sidekick, Christine Jones, is here tonight. And none of this would be possible without her either. And we publish a journal twice a year. And in that journal, we have visual poetry, book reviews, and art. And we're open year round, so it's rolling submissions, and there's no fee to submit. And we look for lyrical or narrative poetry with concision and imagery, and something that will follow you off the page after you're done reading it. And then we also publish chapbooks and full-length collections. And we're based right here in Massachusetts. And every year we also publish a prize-winning collection, and that is through the Paul Nemser Poetry Book Prize. And we're going into our 5th year of publishing a book by somebody who writes like the great Paul Nemser, or approaches that sort of writing, which is just lyric, narrative, genius, beautiful writing that everyone can enjoy. Yeah, and we're happy to be here. We're happy to see poets and hear their work. And we encourage you to submit your work to us, either individual poems or full-length collections. And we also offer critique services and manuscript conferences.
Thank you so much for that, Eileen. Now, Eileen is a poet who actually has a new book this year that is published by another wonderful small poetry press that is here in New England, based in New England, of which Annie Pluto, one of our other featured readers here tonight, is the co-editor and founder of. So, Anne, I wonder if you wouldn't mind saying just a couple of words about Nix's Mate. I'm also fortunate to have a book published by Nix's Mate. So, Anne, tell us about Nix's Mate.
Yes, Nix's Mate was started 8 years ago in 2016 by myself and Michael McGinnis, who is the publisher and the book designer and the web designer, and he's very talented, and another friend of ours, Philip Borenstein. And since then, we've added the poet Hannah Larrabee to our editing staff. We have changed our format. We used to come out more often, but now we seem to be going to a twice-a-year format, and we're in print. And that is coming out very shortly, and there will be an online component to it also. We are not reading yet. I don't think reading will open up until January. And as for book manuscripts, we reach out to the authors ourselves, so we don't, accept submissions for books at the moment. And it's been a ride. What can I say? It's always it's always changing. Something's always happening. But we have 3 fabulous books that came out this year. We're very happy about it, and I'll put stuff in the chat. So thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here with my Chive girls. It's a great night, and to see all of you.
We are so glad that you're here tonight. Thank you so much, Anne, and we will continue the discussion about that. I want to turn us back now to each of our 4 poets for tonight is going to read for about 5 minutes. And we're going to start with Eileen Cleary, who's the author of Wild Pack of the Living, again, published by Nix's Mate in 2024, and also 2 a.m. with Keats by Nix's Mate in 2021, and Child Ward of the Commonwealth, published by Main Street Rag Press in 2019, which received an honorable mention for the Sheila Margaret Moughton Book Prize. She co-edited the anthology Voices Amidst the Virus, which was featured text at the 2021 MSU Filmetry Festival. Eileen founded and edits the Poetry Review by Lily and Lily Poetry Review Books, and she curates the Lily Poetry Salon. And she's a multi-Pushcart nominee. Welcome, Eileen, and thanks for going first.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm just going to read a few poems from Wild Pack of the Living. And this book holds a boy, Stephen Stainer, who was from Merced, and who I carried in my chest for 40 years. He was abducted in 1972 and returned himself home in 1979. And I just had to write about him. So I'm just going to read a few poems. The first one is called The Peach Canner to His Missing Son. Stevie's dad worked in a peach canning factory and also in an orchard. And so this poem is after Paul Nemser, The Peach Canner to His Missing Son. Long past these peach trees, the innocent hour tills. This orchard's arms open as if expecting to surround you, child. Time is a hummingbird I can't outdistance, secreted on a fragile limb. A curve of blossoms overhead and blossoms heavenward petal this narrow prayer. An orchard in which I concede you're missing, and orchards in which I still miss you. Orchards bent double with frost, globes glimmer ablaze, as is their way. Sapwood chants, restore the sun. Rose pivoted green by the earth, rose blushed pink by a meadow birthing star. The pearl at the center lingers, snowmelt slaking its thirst. I am calling you back to the orchard I must one day abandon. This grove forfeits a measure of heat each time your little shadow sends no word. And also, I happen to be a hospice nurse, so I'm just going to read a poem for my hospice patients, and it's called Shopping in Portland, Oregon. Cherry blossoms line the Saturday market near Burnside. I'm on holiday from hospice work, except for the ghosts in my luggage who thin again. I've carried Bob for 5 years now, ever since he stopped loading sawed oaks into his pickup to fashion roll-top desks for the Elder Center. His heart gave out. Not before his wife ignored her headaches until a clot blocked the gate to her thoughts where Bob used to live. No one could forget that sterile Wednesday by her post-stroke bed when she wept and said, "For the love of God, go back, you're dead." What could he do? Bob slipped off like the carrots on his wife's weighted spoon, which never could hold much in place. I had to salvage scavenged bits of nature, which Bob would have given second life, and to the cruelty-free shrine beside the knitted hats that just might keep us all a bit warmer, listening hard for the right prayer to lift into this atmosphere while the living and the dead watch ants sprinkle the sidewalk and bridges build hallways in the sky. Thank you.
Oops, that went by fast. Thank you so much, Eileen. That was Eileen Cleary, and now we are going to hear from Gloria Monaghan. Gloria is a professor at Wentworth University. She's published 6 collections of poetry. Her most recent book, Cormorant on the Strand, 2023, was published by Lily Poetry Review. Her poems have appeared in Nix's Mate, NPR, Poem a Day, Lily Poetry Review, Mom Egg Review, Quartet, and River Heron, among others. She's been nominated twice for the Pushcart Prize, as well as the Massachusetts Book Award and the Griffin Prize. She recently completed a film on painter Nancy Ellen Craig, which was accepted into the 2023 Provincetown Film Festival. Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you, Jennifer. Can everybody hear me okay? I would just like to make mention of the fact that we are part of the Chive Collective. And you probably can't see my cousin's t-shirt, but it does say Chive Collective on here. It's just hidden. Anywho, we are the Chive Collective, which is a wildflower that it's an herb, but it blossoms when neglected, which I love. Anyway, I'm going to read from Cormorant on the Strand, which is published by Lily. I'm very blessed to be part of the Chive Collective. I'm very blessed to be part of this community. Kelly and I were in a previous writing group, and it's just I don't know how people survive without community, and I just want to advocate for that. I'm going to read a couple poems from that are dedicated to my great-great-grandmother, Maud. My Departing Blossoms. There's a quote from Emily Dickinson that starts us out. My departing blossoms, obviate parade. And it's really about October. In the summer's dwindling light, I see dewdrops on the fat leaves of the low trees. 4 o'clock sun capturing the beauty of the last pink roses, withering and refusing to leave the sturdy stalk, held immobile, righteous, and red-tipped, while the others lie scattered in the dirt below. Such dignity in the face of death. The light falls on the side garden, heavy, sad, violet and orange sky, a kind of power in the green leaves. I have forgotten my sins and rise like the light into the small, wide drops left by the rain of the previous day, to sit unabsorbed on the fat leaf within the perfect pool, a universe of stillness, shouldered by the strength, kept quiet by the light, held up by the green, injured by no one. And then the second poem that I'm going to read is called The Field. You know, I was thinking about Robert Duncan and that, but also The Field is just so great. And this is a quote from Matthew. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And here's a quote from Leonardo da Vinci. Be open to mystery. Not everything is straight lines. Stand with your feet apart. Sway your arms. Twist back and forth as if you were in a field. Your mouth, a yellow sprouted dandelion. Tall grass past your ankles whispers through you. Small white flowers of abundance shackle your heart. A green garden snake moves in the dirt like a question. Will you be sad tomorrow? Rolling down the hill, short, straight hair, freckles in the sunlight, dirt on the hands, summer shorts, no fighting in the field. Maybe I held her hand, sang a song. Skunk grass, poverty at lunch, dark shadows at 4. She finally arrives to retrieve us into place in the yellow Mustang. From the field of loss and the field of nothing, where everything happened. Thank you so much. Rock on, Chives.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gloria. That's Gloria Monaghan of the Chive Collective. And now I'm happy to introduce Christine Jones. Christine is the founder, editor-in-chief of Poems to Go, an international public poetry project, and an associate editor of Lily Poetry Review. She's author of Girl Without a Shirt, published by Finishing Line Press 2020, and now Calls Me Daughter, forthcoming from Nix's Mate Review 2022. Also, she's co-producer of the short documentary film Daughter of Rubens, featured at the 2023 Provincetown International Film Festival. And she's co-editor of the anthology Voices Amidst the Virus, Poets Respond to the Pandemic. Her poems have appeared in numerous journals and online, and several poems have been turned into short films. Welcome, Christine Jones.
Thank you. So I ran out and just got my Chive Collective shirt. Gloria, sorry I didn't have it on initially, but here we are. So they're all fun. They're all like found t-shirts, and Gloria's cousin artist put our mark on it. So it's pretty cool. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. I mean, to echo what Gloria has said about how do we survive without community? And I always find like poetry keeps me grounded to the world, but my writing community keeps me grounded to poetry. So really, it's my writing community that keeps me grounded to the world, right? So I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to read from actually that my book, The Now Calls Me Daughter, is out, and this is published by Nix's Mate, designed by Michael McGinnis. And this is about experience. My mom has Alzheimer's. She is still alive, but this book was written in the throes of the real progression that we experienced and when she was living right nearby, and trying to understand that. But I was going to start with another poem, but I caught a line in Eileen's poem, and I love to like have conversation with other poems. And so when I'm reading with poets, oftentimes I will kind of respond in like with a poem. So a line in one of the poems that Eileen read says that time is a hummingbird, and I didn't pick up on that line before, but I did tonight. So interestingly, I have a poem. It's called Not a Bird, meaning its original title was Time is Not a Bird. Here we go. Not a bird. Mom, it isn't. Even before you repeated yourself and your days, before you taught me to say grace, time was never a bird. Rather, it's the bread you throw for the sparrow that lands on the hedges, the raw slide of an oyster, sand flats, figure lines, loamy blooms, my strand of hair in the shower stall, a green-eyed girl in Delhi knocking on her dusty Subaru. Sorry for the little thing here. Sugar crystals and fennel seeds, brailed bark and pickled beets from the foothills of Wyoming. Far from the right whale spray and the sunlights cross on the dune shack's door. The world redeeming itself, revealing a small hole in the screen. It's the blue eggshell in the lawn, the habitual piles you make with your flowered gloves and merry rake, the lemon gelato melting on the nightstand, roses in a jelly jar, and the olive oil we sipped from a farm in Crete. Are you back there, Mom, with the goats bleeding in the gorge? Are you raining down the mountain trail through the scrub pines, or coursing the Seine to the floating piscine? I look for answers within hives hanging from the eaves of the shed. Another shovel, another wasp. What or who gets to live? The great horned owl probes, a mouse in the trap not quite dead. Have you noticed the nest in the budding crepe myrtle? Yes, we've been here for quite a while. I forgive you, my missed birthday unpenciled on the calendar that still leans against your desk. Time is not a bird. It's 12 pairs of swans streaming in the cove, your placid face preserving their wake. It's the sea glass found on shore, held in a tiny terracotta bowl. It's carved on the bottom of a thrown clay vase or marked with an X on a kid-drawn map. It rides the biplane, changes with easterly winds, pivoting the archangel statue mounted on a cathedral wing. Can you hear the choir's collected voices? A bottle captures it, crossing an ocean where a boy finds it at low tide. O time, you will or will not hide. How will fare the loss of a mother in her warm bed? And this poem was written sort of in the beginning phases. It actually showed up in my first book before the real progression. What I want to say, driving home after my mother's checkup, it's okay. It's what we become. A sepia tone I've seen fall across Utah's red rock, striations glowing, bearing those layers polished by grim and pitiless erosion. What we fear is traveling toward us, but so is what we love, what is good and tender. You are my mother, more palpable each day. You reminisce, tell me again, dear, I say, of Mr. and Mrs. Honeybloom, your first apartment, pushing the stroller downtown, and of when I was young in the back seat, hugging your shoulders while you drove, we sang, take me home, country roads. I am your daughter, more glaring each year. My words slipping too, like the sleep that doesn't come or the morning paper. I'm missing your affirmative singular dots, all the while my own ellipses pile, weightless thoughts, dear words. Mom, let's pray. Brave this mouth serrated, its grave doubt. Scars are acceptable. The fog persists, meaning anything I say is questionable. Heavy mist forges my lines, how to be understood. A rattled burst of air strews a small opening in the windshield, enough so if hunched with your chin jutted, we can spot the exit sign just in time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is Christine Jones. And next up and last, we have Anne Elizabeth Pluto, who grew up in Brooklyn, New York before it was cool. She's professor of literature and theater at Lesley University in Cambridge, Mass. She is an alumna of Shakespeare and Company and a member of the Worcester Shakespeare Company from 2011 to 2016. She was one of the founders of the Oxford Street Players at Lesley. A member of the Boston small press scene in the late 1980s, she is one of the founders and editors at Nix's Mate Review and Nix's Mate Books. She has 2 full-length collections, The Deepest Part of Dark, Unlikely Stories Press, NOLA 2020, and How Many Miles to Babylon, Lily Poetry Books 2023. Welcome, Anne Elizabeth Pluto.
Thanks, Kelly. It's really great to be here. So I'm going to pick up on the mother theme, but it'll be a different mother. And this comes from the How Many Miles to Babylon, which is the Lily book. And the name of the poem is called In My Church, Mary Wears Red. So the epigram's a little long. The Moscow Patriarch has repeatedly bestowed blessings on the Russian military, giving a historical golden icon of the Virgin Mary to his senior commander, for example, and casting the war as a holy struggle to protect Russia from what he called Western scourges like gay pride parades. He has been a real vocal supporter of President Vladimir Putin, with the church receiving vast financial resources in return. And here's the poem. Let's take her out of the picture, out of the historical golden frame where she wouldn't stand for being in the pocket of a general scourge, the cold Eastern blame of the West. She sees the exchange of gold and gems, what those who do not have eternal life see fit to deal with. Let's take her out of this picture. She's left on the train to the sea. She's standing in the graves found in Bucha. She's wandering in the steel plant in Mariupol. This Holy Week, this Passover feast, this month of fasting, she's covering her hair, her face. She's opening her hands and reading the central list of the dead. She's stepping into the Chornaya Mora, swimming mermaid-like, her red garments trailing the fishes and every broken mother's wishes to pull the dead sailors to shore in militias, to show their weeping mothers, their blinded criminal country, the cost of lies, the cost of lives. And she rises, Venus-like from the sea, Stella Maris, Theotokos, Mother of Jesus, announcing the resurrection in this, the cruelest month of the year. Since we're on this theme, we'll go to the next one, which is also from How Many Miles to Babylon, and it's called I Shall Wear a Robe and Crown. I've stopped believing in the afterlife. This must be hell already, and the demons have fistfuls of dollars that are never enough. I've stopped believing that all men are created equal on paper, where it matters once fertilization has been accomplished. I've stopped believing that the stone can roll away and there's the messenger in his risen state. Look over Jordan, take up your robe and crown, take it up and put it down. And I have one last poem, and it's new, but it's also on this theme, and it's called Paradise. My young grandmother on her knees, begging her husband not to take them back, that leaving America was like God sending Adam and Eve out of paradise. When she returned, the old country within a new border, language is forever the only homeland. A careful midwife, she made sure the baby was not born, then 3 more live births. My father eating snow, eating sand, shredding bullets, America, kept his eyes on the prize and entered paradise. Paperwork intact, border crossing, my mother waiting. You tell me that you live in paradise. Palm trees, giant sequoias, endless ocean, the view from the mesa, a fast ride into the desert, kick up all that dust, pure bliss on a wide open road. It skipped a generation. I didn't know I could name it, imagine it on a map. The child of immigrants, there was no welcome mat, no door that appeared, and I came to a city 2,500 miles away. This is not my paradise. When you're a first-gen American, you don't get paradise, you get work. I'm a woman, I got a career, I got a lecture. Don't rely on a man to take care of you. In Eden, 4 rivers meet. The trees grow huge, the animals keep us company, and I am not afraid of snakes. I've been eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge for years. Large pomegranates cracked open ripe in the hands of Mary. Everything a seeded offering, an opportunity. I want to taste from the tree of life. We were expelled long before our births, but the rivers run to the sea, to the desert, to the Yucca, Bravolia, native to the Southwest, native to your paradise. Thank you.
And that was Annie. Pluto, thank you so much. All right, I am going to ask, could Katarina, would you put Gloria and Christine and Eileen and I also on Spotlight if you don't mind? We're going to talk for just a couple of minutes before we go. Let's put okay, put Eileen back in the spotlight. There we go. And we're looking for Christine. There we are. Okay. Add spotlight. Good. We got it. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. If there are any questions from our listeners, please feel free to put them in the chat room if you want to know about any of these poets or their writing, or also if you have a question about their craft, we're happy to have you ask that in the chat room, and I'll try to keep my eye on that. All righty, so tell me, if you will, what, and maybe it means something a little different to each of you, but you are the Chive Collective. So I'm wondering if you have a shared idea about what that means, or do each of you have an individual idea about what it means?
Well, I'm happy to start. I would just like to say that I am so grateful for my 3 Chive Collective sisters and our workshop meetings, but also our friendship that goes beyond talking about poetry, talking about our lives and our needs, our desires, anything, our jobs. But it's wonderful to have 3 women poet friends that I can bounce everything off of and talk about publishing, the perils of it, the joys of it, like where to send things. And that there are 3 women who are going to be really honest with me about my work.
Thank you. Who else?
Oh, go ahead, Eileen, and then I'll go.
Oh, okay. First of all, I'm infinitely grateful to every one of these women, and I feel like I'm so grateful that a Chive Collective is named a Chive, because I feel like it's a perennial, right? And I am perennially hoping that this never ends. And I thought a lot about what writers do for each other, and how we just on a this massive amount of great energy coming from these women that just build one another up. But I also feel like I was thinking about Robert Lowell and Elizabeth Bishop, only because Robert Lowell was like a prolific writer, right? And was always out in the spotlight on Time Magazine, dancing with Jackie O, doing all these things, right? And Elizabeth Bishop was in her house revising her slim volumes of poems over 30 to 40 years each, and they somehow got connected in a web of words and feeling and support. And I feel like we maybe don't have those extremes in this group, but there's all those times when one of us might not be writing, or another one might be, there's different things that we're all going through, whether it's publicly or privately, and we're all supporting one another and kind of invested in us all doing well and being well. So I feel like those kinds of literary friendships, they start with a poem, and then the poem you write is really the life you build around it.
Thank you, Eileen. Gloria, you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I would just say that the Chive Collective is a metaphor for a really common herb that's going to grow regardless of nurturing, of fertilizer. You find it on the side of the road, you can smell it. And then when it goes too far, it actually blossoms into this crazy little prickly purple flower, unasked for and unadorned. And I think that that is a really good metaphor for this group. And I think there are other groups of writers who have come together under bizarre circumstances or random circumstances. To me, it's almost random. It's like you meet people that you connect with, that you're working with, and you ask yourself, is it random or was it like ordained? I love that flip question. I think it's random and ordained. And just like I think the chive is like the daisy, it's like common. You can find it anywhere. It's available. And I love how it propagates and moves, and I love how it's young. And when it tastes, when it's the chive is young, it tastes really different. And when it's old and spirally, but then it blossoms. To me, as a woman in my early 60s, that's really positive. So anyway, that's my take. Christine, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, no, I love all of that. And you know, it started when Kelly, we were all in a group, a larger group, and we were called the Wild Geraniums, right? So there's just stuff, definitely something about the perennials and about flowers and blooming and all of that. And then so for reasons just for because there was a lot of us in that group, and I think it just didn't continue, but we were there during the pandemic, and that was how we all came together, and then sort of branched off. And so then when we're coming up because writing, I think we all were missing and unable to get the whole group together. It was like, okay, all right, we need to at least like try to maintain some community, and that was really important. But in terms of, I mean, Eileen and Gloria, you both really said it beautifully in terms of the name. But I can just say that I think I wouldn't be writing if it wasn't for each and every one of you, and for all these opportunities too, you know, Kelly and Jen, and you know, we look at other writing groups and other things that people are doing, and it's always inspiring. And it's, you know, there's no question that we all have full lives, and you're right, both, you know, personally, publicly, going through stuff. But when we come together, I mean, you know, it might be like, oh my gosh, I gotta rush home, I gotta like get dinner, I gotta do this. And then you get here and it's just really like, I'm so glad I'm here. I'm just happy to be amongst all of you. And I just want to keep coming back. And even when I think like I can't fit it in, I'm so glad when I do. And I appreciate it. It teaches me every single time it comes back, and it reminds me of how very important, not just poetry, but really this community and other communities. And I love that I love this merge, right? I appreciate you allowing us to all kind of come and read together, but to be able to merge with this other terrific group, it sounds like, you know, again, poets from all over the world. You guys that's amazing. I love it. Thank you.
I think of the four of you also in particular as what we would say literary, you know, you would say, I'm a literary citizen. I think you're literary citizens. And so because I'd love to involve the audience with what's the takeaway, maybe to connect each. So three of you are involved with presses and reviews. And Gloria, of course, you have a reading series in person that you founded and happens in Weymouth. So just for the next couple of minutes, sort of as our closing talk with the listeners about what it means to you to be a literary citizen and how you care about why you care about doing that part of your work and connecting with other writers here, supporting other writers. I think each one of you is a big supporter of other writers. And I think that is what I'd love to have you talk about a little bit about. Why do you support other writers? Not even just each other. I'm talking about like writers who might be here tonight. And anybody go.
I can start just briefly. And Christine and I have talked about this before too. We didn't know when we started out together at Leslie university if we would ever have books of our own or a published poem, but we knew that we loved the art of writing. And we knew we wanted to be surrounded with these magnificent creatures that call themselves poets. And we just wanted to do everything we could to be just in the vicinity of them. And there's something absolutely beautiful about a group of poets who come together, whether they just found out yesterday on a bar stool that they were able to write a poem, or they've been writing for 50 years. Once they're cognizant of that, it becomes an energy and something beautiful. And also, we can only do so much. We can only make so much art ourselves. So preserving and amplifying art by other people is a beautiful way to spread more of it in the world, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll follow up with that in terms of, I remember, again, being in an MFA program and then just emerging as someone who writes poetry beyond, what I did as a kid, and kind of like coming back to my middle age. But feeling how that enriched my life, I just wanted to share, and I wanted to be able to like let others that maybe aren't able to be exposed to poetry have accessible poetry. And that was the impetus for starting my original, it's now defunct, unfortunately, Poems to Go. During COVID, it didn't work. It was just that I was able to get a grant, and I just would write, I would solicit and receive submissions of poets and poetry, and I would put them on little 4x6 note cards, and I would print out like hundreds of them, and I was distributing them. And it started off with 5 bookstores around Massachusetts, and then it expanded across the country. And before it went defunct, I was serving 13 different states and 51 different venues, bookstores, libraries, cafes, things of that sort. It was pretty cool. But it was just the idea of spreading just the joy, and to also be surrounded by the voices that while we are all writing very differently, but we still feels like we're writing, talking the same language, this attentiveness to the world, which I know I desperately need and want to hear. And I love the opportunity to be able to share that and give others the opportunity to share what they're writing and paying attention to.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Christine. I mean, I want to hear 2 sentences on that topic from Gloria and also Anne, and then I want to ask Jen a question, and I have 2 more questions. So, Gloria, what about that literary citizenship?
I think it's really, really important. I mean, to me, that's almost more important than being a poet, because it's crazy. Like you're elevating people. And by the way, if anyone wants to read at Open Doors, please private message me, or you can chat me in here. I don't have a grant, so I can't pay you. You can sell your books, or you can come and read. I think it's about community, and I'm very grateful to be part of a community. It's very, very important. I lived for years without a community, and it's very important to be in a community. Thank you, Kelly.
So much, Gloria. Yeah. Anne.
Eileen and Christine said it so beautifully, but let me add this. I wanted, as an editor and as part of a press, to take the pretension out of poetry. I want to find new voices. I want different people to get published. I want people who never thought they would see themselves in a magazine to see themselves there. I want to hear, I'm a professor. I teach creative writing. I love when my students do well. I love when they create something. That means more to me than my own publications. Just keep this fabulous road going. People write poetry all over the world. It should be shared. It should not be this like secret language, that only the very educated, understand. That's a lot of crap. And that's all I'm going to say. The end.
Let me, thank you, that's great. But let me transition to include you in the conversation, Jen, with the Journal of Expressive Writing, because Gloria, I believe, asked at the very beginning, tell us about the journal. And, you know, I know a lot of people who come here regularly, they know a lot about the journal, but why don't you weigh in on the conversation? Because you are a phenomenal literary citizen yourself, creating this journal in the middle of the pandemic, without a grant, without anything, but just your own chutzpah, if we can call it that. So how do you see the Journal of Expressive Writing fitting into this?
You
Oh,
asking
I
me,
feel-
Kelly?
Go ahead.
Are you asking Jen?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like you are my peeps. Everything that you're saying is exactly why I birthed the journal. I had been, I did start it during the height of the pandemic when we were all, you know, isolated, and prior to that, I had been delivering women's writing circles. So I was bringing women together to do expressive writing in small groups, and the reason why I was doing that was I felt this very strong need. I was in my early 40s, my kids were younger. I felt like we needed to be truth tellers. We needed to be just putting it out there in small groups, using expressive writing as the form. We were writing from prompts and writing from quotes, and it was this magical thing that just happened every time we came together. And then the pandemic hit, and then you know, everything was shut down. And as my friends were making, you know, all kinds of crafty things out, you know, I'm like, I don't know how to sew, you know. So I had been thinking about this journal for a really long time, because one of the things that always emerged out of the women's writing circles were these amazing pieces that came out in 5 minutes, you know, or 3 minutes or 10 minutes. And then often people would ask me, well, how can I publish? How can I get this piece published? And then I thought, well, here, this has just defeated the whole purpose of, you know, uplifting women, and you know, this whole process of getting our feelings out and get validated, and using our voices to connect and to cross bridges and for social justice and to understand each other. And then it felt like all of these hurdles were in the way for many people to get published. And I wanted to get women's voices out there. I felt very, very strongly for a long time. And so as I was home during the pandemic, I thought, well, now is the time that actually this can bring people together. It was a little unclear about how yet I could do women's writing circles over Zoom. It was, you know, it was so new. I didn't know if we were going to lose a lot. And so I started the journal, and honestly, I was afraid I wasn't actually going to get any submissions. And then I did. I started with 35 submissions, and then it's just grown into, now we're almost at 600 published pieces. It'll be 5 years.
And not
up.
just women, men.
And exactly. And I wanted to broaden it to everybody around the world. So yeah, as a global citizen, really to bring people together and put people's voices out there and make it easier for people. So that's the journal.
Jazine, thank you so much, Jen. Jazine asked a question that we could do a 2-hour workshop on right now easily. She's asking a phenomenal question about revision, but with my eye on the clock, I'm going to have to say, Jazine, I promise we will answer that, keep talking about it maybe, but I think we're not, because of the open mic, I'm not going to be able to really open up that revision question, which is such a great question, but I promise we will get back to it in future Journal of Expressive Writing talks for sure. And feel free to get a conversation going in the chat room about revision if you want, while we listen to all the readers in the open mic. And again, well, good. All right. So we've lost a couple. Okay. We've got a smaller open mic. Tell you what, if we have time left at the end of the open mic, we'll revisit the question about revision. Okay. But I want to get to our lineup of readers for the open mic before we take it on. And thanks for your understanding about that and for posing the question, Jazine, in the first place. All righty. So Katarina, if you would kindly undo all of our spotlights, I will also stop the recording.